Okay, well, we'll get going again. My name's Michael Bryant from Act Today. We're the developers of SMS4Act, and we have a partnership with Message Media. Whilst there are a lot of providers out there of this service, we chose Message Media because they are an international company and they have a guaranteed delivery service, which is very important. A lot of the providers actually don't have a guaranteed delivery and can take 24 hours to send a message. So it's an important factor of why we chose to partner with Message Media. We do have users all around the world. It's not just here in Australia and New Zealand. So the basic concepts of sending messages, of course, you should probably realise, and why you're here is, that 98% of people actually read an SMS message, whereas emails, it's 20 to 30% of people who actually deal with an email in a lot of cases, so particularly marketing type emails. So sending an SMS message is quite easy. If I look up a contact in the database here, and I wish to send him a message, and just click on one of these icons here, it'll pop up a text box here. So test message to James here is one of my colleagues. And what will happen is when I send this message, it's sending it to the current contact here, sending it to the mobile. It'll send internationally as long as you've got your database set up correctly. It'll record that to history. You can turn that off ad hoc if you wish to. By default, it's on. And it'll send an email reply back to the email address that's in your My Record, or is default in your preferences here. In this case, it's mine. So if I send out that message to James there, it records into the history here the message that I sent, and when he replies, it'll actually pop back into there as well as send me an email. And we'll see that happen in due course. If I want to send the message to a group of people, I can look up a couple of people here, and I can send a broadcast message to these two people. Again, I click on the icon here, and I can say to the current lookup, and you'll see it changes here the name here to salutation. So it's actually going to call the field from the contact record salutation field, and it's also going to put in my follow-up here, being from the My Record contact company and phone number, and I'll show you how to actually create these templates and set those up during this process. So, and type in my message here, and these are a couple of my colleagues again, and it'll send out to those 2 people, or 20 people, or 50 people, whatever the case might be. Again, it will populate the history with that message, and if I go back to Peter's record here, you'll see it there as well. So how would you use this sort of functionality? There could be lots of different cases. You might be in an organisation, say healthcare, where you manage patients and you have a number of nurses on your staff who you want to message out to say, look, there's a patient, needs some assistance. So if I look up company here, nurse, I've got a couple of examples here. So I've got 2 nursing services here, and I'd like to send them a specific message. So I can click on here. I might have already pre-created a template, so I could open up an existing template here, and whichever one it might be. If I already create, and I'll show you how to do that anyway. So I've got one here called nursing, and we have a current, an urgent call out for a patient in North Sydney. Please confirm availability. So I'm going to send that to internal staff people who might be available to go and attend that patient within 45 minutes. So if I send that out, again, it will update the history for those people, and eventually one of those nurses might respond back. Another example of that might be you might have a review date in your database for perhaps reassessment of asset management or something to that effect. And if I have a look in this date field here, I do have a review date here somewhere. Let's go and have a look at it. Review date, and I'll just say contains data in this case. And I've got 4 people there who, are due for a review date on a particular day. I could add that column into my view here if I wish to, so I could see it. Or I might want just the ones in the next 30 days. So review date. You could also create a dynamic group to analyse that as well. So I could say here review date next month as an example. And the query here actually says, find the review date month equals 7. So it'll give me everybody who has a date in July. I can create a lookup of those people. And I could send out a broadcast message to those people. Again, I might have already pre-built a template. So I can click on the SMS icon, open up a template here, got one there called review date. And, hoping to organise a meeting with you, your yearly review date's on the 7th. It'll actually merge that date in per person when I say current contact. So it's going to say to the specific person, hi John, hi Fred, hi Mary, what your review date is. It'll put that in there as well, and that'll send out to those 4 people. So building templates, can be quite important if you want to do broadcasts out. It might be a release of a new product, or if your database is set up, in a way that you can segregate by criteria. As an example, I could say, look up on the ID status, I want all the customers, and I want to send out a specific message just to that list of customers. Obviously, they do need a mobile, so you have to eliminate the ones that don't have a mobile, perhaps, from your lookup. And then you have your lookup, create your template, and you can broadcast that out. So how do we build templates? If I go to Edit, Create SMS Template here, and I can open up an existing one if I've already got some pre-built to save recreating some of the little functions you've got in there. Let's say we go to Review Date there. So I can merge different types of things. So where it says See Salutation there, that means it's coming from the contact table, which is this option here. If I go to the My Record, when I pop a field into this message here, whatever that field might be, it's going to have an M in front of it because it's actually calling it from your Act My Record. So when you first log into Act, you have an Act My Record, and that's where it's calling that data from. If I want to call data from an activity, I would change this field type to activity, and then I can pull data out of an activity, all these particular fields here from the activity, and I'll show you how that works. So it's only a matter of creating the template, saving the template. You can create as many as you like and reuse them as often as you wish. So let's have a look at how an activity one might work. I'll look up James Baird again and come to James here, and I'd like to go to the calendar. And tomorrow I'd like to book in a meeting. I might be talking to him on the phone right now. What's it about? I'll say it's about contract negotiations. I might want to put some details in. Details go here. And if I click on the SMS icon there, it'll automatically populate that saying, "Hi James, confirming our meeting on the 24th at 1:30, which is what I put in here, regarding contract negotiations. I look forward to meeting you on the day," etc. So send that, and James will get that confirmation of that meeting. And the importance about that is, I don't know if you've ever turned up somewhere where you had a meeting booked and they forgot you were coming. You can actually automate this functionality so that they send automatically 24 hours or a day or two before, 5 minutes before, whatever you particularly want to do, and I'll show you how to set that up as well. So if I come back to the contact screen here, you can see that James replied here. So he's replied, second message received, and it's come back into the history there. If I go to my email, second. If I go to my email there, you'll see here there's the response back as well. So it's come into my email from James, second message received. So if you're out on the field, perhaps, no one saved the changes there, thank you. If you're out in the field and you're collecting your emails on your device and a message goes out from the office, you'd get that reply to say, yes, the meeting's on for tomorrow. So it's a handy way to avoid those sort of time losses where you turn up somewhere and they've forgotten about you. So if we go into the preferences of ACT, thank you. If we go into the preferences here in SMS, I know you probably already have SMS set up, so I won't go into actually creating an account, but you can create your account, put in your details. You can go and check your account to see how many messages you have available this month, how many you've used. How often do you want to check for replies? I've got it set at 1 minute. By default, it's 5 minutes. And you only need that turned on one PC in your environment. You don't need it turned on every PC. So one machine will poll out, check messages on the message media server, bring them back into history and ACT, and every 5 minutes or whatever time interval you select. You can also nominate to include the original message in your text. So when the message you send out will also come back in the reply to your email and into your history once that person responds to you. By default, it's going to pick up the email address out of your My Record. So each user in your database has a My Record. If I just go back to this one here, I'm logged in as Chris Huffman. But they'll say, Chris, and there's my details. It's important that you have your My Record set up correctly. Make sure you've got your country selected. You have your phone number set to Australia, because that's going to pre-dial. Then if you're sending messages internationally, it knows you're in Australia. It's going to put in the 1 for America or whatever the case is and send that message out. So each person has their own My Record, and it'll pick up the email out of there by default when you first set up SMS. So we'll just go back to preferences. Excuse me 1 second. So down the bottom here, there's actually an option here to set fields in the database. It'll actually create them. You can put them on your screen layout. So you can have last SMS sent, it's already enabled in this one, so they're greyed out, SMS received, and then an opt-out option. And on the screen here, you can see those. So if I look up James Baird, for instance, who I sent a message to a little while ago, you can see there's the message sent, there's their message last reply date. So you can start to intelligently search your database for things like that. There's already a last meeting date as an example, so you can go to last meeting and say, who haven't we met within a given time frame, so older than 90 days or whatever the case might be. So I don't know if you analyse your data in that way. If you go out to meet people, you might want to look up all your customers and say, okay, who haven't we spoken to in the last 6 months? And that allows you to do that. And the same with SMS. We can say here, look up everybody who hasn't had an SMS for or on or after or a particular date or on or before. So if we say on or after here, 1st of the 7th, sorry, that would be a bit silly, wouldn't it? 6/2016, and go okay, to look up the people who've received messages, and those are the ones I sent this morning, so you can see what message you've sent this month. So, having those fields on the screen can be very handy. If someone types stop in an SMS reply, it will automatically click this opt-out, and you can no longer send that person an SMS through this program. It'll actually tell you can't do that. Send. Oh, and it did send it. I'll have to check that. But it should stop you sending to that particular person. So if we come back to the preferences here, and we'll have a look at the automated function of SMS Alerts. So SMS Alerts is something that you can create, and I'll just delete these ones here, and I'll go through the process of creating it for you. So what this enables you to do is set this up on perhaps your server. That only needs to be set up on one PC or server in your environment. And it'll create a Windows task schedule to automatically send reminders based on the criteria you've determined. So if I add a new one here, I can say what type of activity would I like to send reminders for. I'll say meetings. I might want to nominate who do I want to send them for. So I might say I want to send them for Betty, Ernst, Chris, whoever I want to nominate. I select those users. I would like to send it with the scheduled contacts and between what time frame. So I can say between 9 and 5 p.m. Where am I located? Sydney. I've got my details in there. And what template would I like to use? So I'm going to say the meeting template, and I can save that. So save that schedule. I can add another one here. I might say for to-dos or marketing calls or something like that, I might say a call. And who do I want to send this for? I might want to send it just for one person or one user in the database. Again, what time frames? Start at 9 o'clock. And what template would you like to use? And you could have a specific template set up for that. I'll just use the call one in this example. So I've got one there for meeting, one for call type, and this one here I want to set it for, say 30 minutes before the call. I come back up to this one here, I want to send this one day before. So it's going to send out a reminder 24 hours before that meeting time to confirm that that meeting's on, to again avoid those sorts of confusions of arriving and they've forgotten about you. So I'll just save that, and I'll create a Windows task. It'll ask you for your server login or admin login, because that's a Windows function. And it's now created that task. We can go and have a look at that task in Windows. And come down the bottom, there's our task. We can go through and review it here. You can see what it's going to do. It's going to send out specific things and times, and you can change it here. You can delete it, remove it, whatever you like to do. So that's actually using the Windows functionality to automate the sending of those messages. And you can create as many of these as you like. You can have different time frames for different people in the database. You might say, well, I want to also add another person to here. So you can go okay on that, save that. You'd have to stop and recreate your task if you modify it, but it allows you to do that. So there's some other settings in the preferences here. You can have a default template. That's the one that starts up when you first have it. If you don't use that default template functionality, I'll just take that out. Go OK. And if I click on SMS, you'll see it's blank. Okay, so there's no starting point, so it doesn't say hi John, hi Mary. If we go back in there and add that to it again, oops, and preferences, templates, I'll put that back in there and save it. Next time I click on the message, it's going to default, with that person's name. So there's nurse in the salutation field there, so it puts in hi nurse, and then you can just type your message away. So back in the preferences here, in some environments, just so you do know, there's some email settings and proxy settings here. It doesn't hurt to put in your email settings here. It actually makes the message go a little bit quicker if you have a mail.actoday.com username or whatever the case might be. If you have a proxy server in your environment, you do need to authenticate that to send messages through your proxy server. Again, not many people use this. I think one or two in the last 12 months I've spoken to who needed that. So it's not very common, but if you have one, just speak to your IT. They give you these settings and you'll be able to set that up. So the preferences are pretty straightforward. There's also help here. You can, Message Media have some user support for their platform. As you probably know, they have a portal where you can go in there and create multiple users within your account. If you want to track who sends what within your organization, if they have their own login details to Message Media, you can then track all the individual users and what they're doing with your messages. You can download the latest version of SMS4Act here because we do update it on a regular basis. It doesn't hurt to update it occasionally. You're on version 18 particularly, and you've come up from version 17. There's new functions there in this version that weren't there in the previous one. There's also support from us. If you have a technical issue, we do offer free support on this, and we're happy to log in and help you with it if you need that sort of help. So at this point, having shown you that, there is one more thing I want to show you about activities. If you create custom activities in your database, and I'll just have a look here. So we've got some here, the call meeting, to do appointment. Appointment's actually there just purely for Outlook. That's the reason for that. It doesn't have a date field in ACT that records like the last meeting date, last call dates. It's important to understand that. If you create custom activities, I've got one here for support as an example. The custom activity doesn't create a date in ACT. We actually have some tools that we can make it do that and force a date like we did with this SMS. If you do need to search those sorts of types of fields if you create those. But importantly, if you have a custom activity type and you book in a meeting here and you say support, it's actually going to call by default a SMS template called support. So if you create a template with exactly the same name as a custom activity type, it will actually call up that template rather than the meeting one for 2 users. And I can put in some details there if I wish, and if I click on there, it's actually going to say confirming our support booking on the 23rd because I've already created the template, for that support and what time it's at, and there's the information about what that's going to send. So I'll send that out and it'll go. So at this point, any questions? I'd be happy to help you answer other questions, show you some other functions, but that's pretty well how it all works. Very simple and straightforward and efficient. And given that 98% of people read them and deal with them, I think it's a pretty powerful tool, to use with your ACT database. Any questions? Is the default template applicable to an individual user or all users? The default template, when you install SMS4Act, you can select a different template per person because it's actually a desktop setting at this point. So if I go to the preferences here, templates, again, I'm calling this specific template here. I might want to browse to a different location. I could go off to the databases, templates, and I could grab a different template from there. It's the same in this particular case, but you actually see it's looking at a different point there. These templates can be stored wherever you like. They're best stored in your templates folder in your ACT database. But again, I've got a different location for that one, a different location for that one. So yes, you can definitely do that, Paula. It is very simple, and probably that's why you don't have any questions. You can create templates from here if you wish. Again, you can open up existing ones, modify them, do whatever you need with them, and create as many as you like. Really handy for getting quick messages out to hundreds of people. We do have some customers. A good example is one who's in debt collection, and they send out an enormous amount of messages per month, but they improve their collection rate using SMS by 40%. So, that's a good indication of how people react to messages rather than emails. If you wish to review any of that, if you have any questions again, you could come into the help here, send us a support message here at ACT Today. You're more than welcome to do that, and we're only too happy to respond to you. Paula, I'm not sure what version of ACT or SMS you're on. It's probably best to, download the latest version. You can get it straight off our website. You can go to SMS SMS4Act.com if you wish. Oops. And you can download it from here. You can go straight to acttoday.com.au downloads, and you can get it from there. And I'd suggest if you upgrade, I don't know how long you've had it, but that may be as simple as that. If not, we'd be happy to have a look at it for you. So what Paul is saying is, as I type in the messages, you'll see it says 65 characters. This is counting characters. And you'll see it's actually increased to 96 characters there, because as I start typing, it keeps doing that. Okay, so if it's not doing that, upgrade to the latest one would be the best advice. If not, let us know and we'll have a look at it for you. Okay, well, it looks like we've got no more questions for this morning. Again, we're more than happy to come back to you, and Message Media can distribute out the recording for you. Have a great day and enjoy your messaging. Thanks for your time.